A 15-year-old girl digs 2 graves on a Friday afternoon. A 12-year-old opens the basement window to let in a monster. An 11-year-old waits 4 hours for his father to come home, just to pull the trigger. These aren't horror movie plots. These are real stories of teenage killers serving life in prison. And what they did will leave you speechless. Let's dive in. Number 1 is Alyssa Dalene Bustamante. Alyssa Dalene Bustamante was born on January 28, 1994, into chaos. Her mother, Michelle, struggled with addiction. Her father, Caesar, was serving time in prison for assault. By 2002, when Alyssa was 8, her grandparents Gary and Karen Brooke took legal custody of her and her 3 younger siblings. They tried to provide stability, but something dark was already forming inside Alyssa. In 2007, at age 13, she attempted suicide by swallowing an entire bottle of Tylenol and cutting her arms hundreds of times, carving the word hate into her skin. She was hospitalized and prescribed Prozac. Her YouTube profile listed her hobbies: cutting and killing people. She posted photos with fake blood around her lips, fingers shaped like a gun pointed at her head. Friends noticed the changes. Warning signs were everywhere. But no one could have predicted what she would do next. On a Friday in mid-October 2009, Alyssa Bustamante dug 2 graves in the woods behind her St. Martin's, Missouri home. She was 15 years old. She was preparing to kill someone. She just didn't know who yet. On October 21, 2009, she found her victim, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten, who lived 4 houses down. Elizabeth was small, innocent, dreaming of becoming a teacher and a veterinarian. Alyssa convinced her younger sister to bring Elizabeth to the forest to hang out. When Elizabeth arrived, Alyssa left her sister outside and lured the little girl deeper into the woods. Then she strangled her. She slit her throat. She stabbed her 8 times in the chest. Elizabeth's autopsy later revealed she was strangled so violently it could have caused brain death. The throat wounds suggested possible torture. Alyssa buried Elizabeth in one of the shallow graves she dug, covering it poorly with leaves. Then she went home. She wrote in her diary, "I just fucking killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them, now they're dead. I don't know how to feel ATM. It was amazing. As soon as you get over the, oh my god, I can't do this feeling, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm kinda nervous and shaky though right now. I gotta go to church now. LOL." That night, Alyssa attended a church dance. Her grandmother noticed she seemed happier than normal. While Alyssa danced, hundreds of volunteers searched desperately for Elizabeth. Elizabeth's mother, Patty Price, called police on October 21st when her daughter never came home. Volunteers searched for 2 days. On October 23, 2009, police found written evidence at the crime scene pointing to Alyssa. They discovered her social media pages with references to killing. They found her diary. The entry from October 21st was damning. She had tried to scribble it out with blue ink, but forensic handwriting experts could still read it. During interrogation, Alyssa confessed. Her grandmother was in the room. When Alyssa admitted to the murder, her grandmother burst into tears and ran out. Alyssa was charged as an adult with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. In January 2012, to avoid life without parole, she accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to second-degree murder. At sentencing in February 2012, the diary entry was read aloud. Patty Price looked at Alyssa and said, "Elizabeth was given a death sentence, and we were given a life sentence. Alyssa Bustamante was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole, plus a consecutive 30-year sentence for armed criminal action. She is currently incarcerated at Chillicothe Correctional Center in Missouri. In July 2024, she was denied parole. Her next hearing is in 2029. Even if granted parole from her life sentence, she must serve the consecutive 30 years, making her earliest possible release 2059, when she'll be 65. Elizabeth's family successfully advocated for changes to Missouri law, ensuring juveniles convicted of second-degree murder can no longer seek early parole. As of 2025, Alyssa remains imprisoned. She dug the graves on a Friday and chose her victim the following Wednesday. She strangled, stabbed, and slit the throat of a 9-year-old girl who dreamed of becoming a teacher. Then she wrote that it was amazing and went to church to dance. Alyssa Bustamante didn't kill out of rage or revenge. She killed because she wanted to know what it felt like. Elizabeth Olten's life ended in a shallow grave covered with leaves, while her killer went home smiling. Some evil announces itself slowly. Other times, it writes itself down in a diary and goes to church. Justice keeps Alyssa locked away, but it can never bring Elizabeth back. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it right now. We're bringing you the most shocking true crime cases you won't find anywhere else. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Number 2 is Zachary Everett Davis. Zachary Everett Davis was born in 2002 to Melanie and Chris Davis in Hendersonville, Tennessee. His mother, originally from Australia, was a paralegal and triathlon athlete. His older brother Josh was popular and athletic, but Zachary was different. When he was 9, his father died from ALS. The loss devastated him. At age 11, he was diagnosed with psychosis and major depressive disorder. A doctor began treating him, but after 4 visits, his mother stopped bringing him to appointments. Zachary told her he heard voices, that his dead father talked to him at night. Classmates said he was withdrawn, wore the same hoodie daily, whispered when he spoke, made no eye contact. His phone had apps about serial killers and torture devices. His notebook read, "You can't spell laughter without slaughter." The warning signs were everywhere. On August 10, 2012, Melanie took her sons to see a comedy. They laughed, ate popcorn, went home. Josh went to his room. Melanie went to bed exhausted. Zachary went to his room, packed a backpack, then walked to the garage and grabbed a sledgehammer. He opened his mother's bedroom door and stared at her sleeping. Then he began swinging. He hit her nearly 20 times in the head. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. She woke briefly, only to seize. Zachary later said he laughed as he struck her. He wanted to make sure she was dead. After killing her, he doused her room with gasoline and whiskey and set it on fire, hoping to kill Josh too. Then he walked out and disappeared down the street. Josh woke to smoke. He said his dead father told him to do it. He admitted setting the fire to kill Josh, claiming Josh had sexually assaulted him and their mother didn't believe him. He told police, "I wish I would have killed my brother first." Mental health experts evaluated him. Some diagnosed schizophrenia and depression, but all agreed he understood right from wrong. He wasn't legally insane. At trial, Zachary shocked everyone by claiming he didn't kill his mother, that Josh did and he was covering for him. The jury didn't believe him. Judge D. David Gay told him, "You have shown no regrets, no remorse. You became evil, Mr. Davis. You went to the dark side." Zachary was convicted of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and arson. He received life, 60 years, plus 20 years for attempted murder and 20 for arson, 71 years minimum. His appeal was denied in 2014. In a 2015 Dr. Phil interview, he spoke in a flat voice. When asked about the sledgehammer, he snickered. He claimed his dead father talks to him nightly in prison. Josh denied all accusations against him. As of 2025, Zachary remains incarcerated. She took her sons to the movies. They laughed. She went to bed believing everything was fine. Hours later, her 15-year-old stood over her with a sledgehammer and laughed as he killed her. Zachary didn't snap. He packed a backpack, retrieved a weapon, and stared before striking. Mental illness may explain the darkness, but it doesn't erase the choice. Some children are born broken. Others are shaped by loss and neglect. Zachary was both, and his mother paid the ultimate price. Number 3 is Nehemiah Griego. Nehemiah Griego was born on March 25, 1997, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, one of 10 children. His father, Greg Griego, was a former gang member who transformed his life, becoming a respected pastor, volunteer firefighter, and chaplain at the county jail. Greg dedicated himself to helping troubled youth escape violence, and his story of redemption defined the family. His mother, Sarah, was a devoted homeschool teacher who raised their children with strict religious discipline. The Griego household revolved around church activities and community service. But Nehemiah was different. He was withdrawn, struggled with anger, and showed a disturbing fascination with violence and weapons. He talked constantly about joining the military to use firearms and engage in combat. Friends noticed his obsession with violent video games and scenarios. Warning signs were everywhere, but they were overlooked. Nehemiah exhibited severe emotional disturbances, yet he never received adequate mental health treatment. The isolation of homeschooling limited his social interactions, deepening his withdrawal. Beneath the surface of this religious, tight-knit family, something dangerous was growing. On January 19, 2013, at approximately 1 a.m., Nehemiah Griego retrieved a .22 caliber rifle from his home. He walked into his mother Sarah's bedroom while she slept and shot her multiple times, killing her instantly. Then he forced his 9-year-old brother Zephaniah to look at their mother's bloody body before shooting him dead. He moved to another bedroom where his 5-year-old sister Jael and 2-year-old sister Angelina lay sleeping. They woke up crying in fear. He shot them both, for members of his family were dead, and he wasn't finished. Nehemiah waited nearly 4 hours for his father to return home. When Greg Griego walked through the door, completely unaware of the horror inside, his father collapsed and died. After the killings, Nehemiah reloaded his weapons and took the family van. He later told police he planned to drive to a populated area, possibly a Walmart, to murder more people. Instead, he spent the day with his 12-year-old girlfriend and her family. He sent her a photo of his dead mother. That evening, he drove to Calvary Chapel, where his father had been pastor, and confessed to a church staff member. The church staff member immediately contacted authorities. Police arrived at the church and arrested Nehemiah without resistance. He was calm, cooperative, and showed no emotion. Officers then went to the Griego home and discovered the horrific crime scene. 5 bodies, blood throughout the house, and multiple firearms. The brutality shocked even seasoned investigators. Bernalillo County Sheriff Dan Houston said the attack went beyond any human reasoning or understanding. It's horrific. During interrogation, Nehemiah confessed to everything. He detailed the sequence of killings with disturbing precision. Investigators reviewed his digital communications and found evidence of his fascination with violence, including apps about serial killers and torture devices. Nehemiah was charged with 2 counts of murder and 3 counts of child abuse resulting in death. The question became, should he be tried as a juvenile or an adult? Given the severity and premeditated nature of the crimes, prosecutors pursued an adult trial. In 2019, after years of legal proceedings, Nehemiah Griego was sentenced as an adult to 3 concurrent life sentences for the deaths of his siblings, with the possibility of parole after 30 years, plus 2 concurrent 7-year sentences for his parents' murders. In June 2022, the New Mexico Supreme Court upheld his sentence, rejecting arguments that it constituted cruel and unusual punishment. Nehemiah, now 28 years old, will be eligible for parole when he is 52. His surviving family members have spoken publicly against his release. His older sister Vanessa told reporters, "He murdered 5 people. I don't think anybody can come back from that. I personally would like him to stay behind bars. He is a danger to society and to our family." As of 2025, Nehemiah remains incarcerated. Greg Griego spent his life saving people, transforming from gang member to pastor, helping troubled youth escape violence. He never imagined the violence would come from his own son. On that January night, Nehemiah methodically executed his mother, forced his little brother to see her body, killed his crying sisters, and ambushed his father at the door. Then he sent a photo to his girlfriend and went to church. Mental illness may have played a role, but so did cold calculation. 5 lives ended because warning signs were ignored and help never came. Some families pray together. The Griegos died together, and the boy they raised became the monster they never saw coming. Before we continue, make sure you've hit that like button. If you're finding these cases as shocking as we are, show us some support. Your likes help us bring more incredible content like this to you. Number 4 is Jasmine Richardson. Jasmine Richardson was born on October 21, 1993, in Ontario, Canada, to recovering addicts Deborah and Mark Richardson. The family moved to Medicine Hat, Alberta, in 2005, finally achieving stability after years of struggle. Jasmine was a bright, straight-A student on the honor roll at her Catholic school, involved in fine arts, outgoing and social. But in summer 2005, everything changed. She began frequenting the Medicine Hat Mall with friends, where they encountered older goth kids. Jasmine became obsessed, changing her appearance, creating fake social media profiles claiming she was older, posting inappropriate content. Her heroes included serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. In January 2006, a friend introduced her to Jeremy Steinke, a 23-year-old high school dropout who called himself a 300-year-old werewolf and wore a vial of blood around his neck. Despite being 12, she began a relationship with him. Her parents were horrified and grounded her. She grew to resent them and her 8-year-old brother Tyler. She strangled Tyler once while Steinke watched. Tyler later told a family friend he was afraid of his sister. After being caught making out with Steinke in an alley, Jasmine reached her breaking point. On April 23, 2006, at approximately 5 a.m., Jasmine left the basement window open. Jeremy Steinke, drunk and high on cocaine, marijuana, and ecstasy, climbed inside. Deborah Richardson heard the noise and went to investigate. Steinke lunged at her, stabbing her 12 times as she raised her arms to shield herself. Mark Richardson heard his wife screaming and charged into the basement with a screwdriver, jabbing Steinke in the eye. But Steinke overpowered him and stabbed him 24 times. Mark's last words were, "Why?" Steinke replied, "Because it's what your daughter wanted." Upstairs, 8-year-old Tyler heard everything. He was terrified. Someone entered his room and slit his throat, then stabbed him in the chest and face. Evidence showed he fought back, reportedly using his toy lightsaber. Both Steinke and Jasmine later blamed each other for killing Tyler. After the murders, Steinke sped away. Jasmine rinsed the knife, packed a bag, took her mother's purse, and used her credit card to call a taxi to Steinke's trailer. When she arrived, they had sex. Later that morning, they attended a house party near where the bodies lay. Witnesses saw Jasmine laughing, sitting in Steinke's lap, kissing him passionately. Steinke showed off his eye injury and told partygoers he'd gutted them like fish. Jasmine added, "My little brother gargled." On April 23, 2006, at 1 p.m., Tyler's young friend arrived for a playdate and discovered the bodies. Police found Mark and Deborah in the basement and Tyler upstairs. Jasmine was missing. Initially feared to be another victim, she became a suspect when investigators found a stick figure drawing in her school locker depicting her family being murdered. The next day, police arrested Jasmine and Steinke in Leader, Saskatchewan, 130 kilometers away. Their friend Casey Lancaster was later charged with obstruction for driving them away and disposing of evidence. Digital evidence revealed months of planning. Jasmine had messaged Steinke, "I have this plan. It begins with me killing them and ends with me living with you." Steinke wrote publicly on Nexopia 3 days before the murders, "I'm going to do this weekend." In custody, Steinke confessed to killing the parents but claimed Jasmine killed Tyler. At trial in July 2007, 13-year-old Jasmine was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, believed to be the youngest person in Canada ever convicted of multiple first-degree murders. Jasmine received the maximum sentence for her age, 10 years, including 4 years in a psychiatric institution and 4.5 years of conditional supervision. She attended Mount Royal University during her final years in custody and reportedly showed genuine remorse. In May 2016, a judge told her, "I think your parents would be rather proud of you," and released her from all court-ordered conditions. Her criminal record was expunged in 2020. She now lives under a new identity, free. Jeremy Steinke was sentenced to life with parole eligibility after 25 years. He changed his name to Jackson May and remains imprisoned. As of 2025, Jasmine Richardson walks free while her family remains buried. She was 12 years old when she opened the basement window for her 23-year-old boyfriend to climb inside and slaughter her family. Her parents tried to protect her. Her little brother feared her. And after they were all dead, stabbed, throats slit, bodies cooling, she laughed at a party and kissed her killer. 10 years later, a judge told her that her parents would be proud. But they'll never know. They died begging to understand why their daughter wanted them dead. Some children are stolen by monsters. Jasmine Richardson invited hers in. Number 5 is Lionel Tate. Lionel Tate was born in 1987 in Pembroke Park, Florida. His mother, Kathleen Grosset Tate, was a Florida Highway Patrol trooper, a career built on protecting others. She raised Lionel as a single mother, working long hours while trying to provide stability. By all accounts, Lionel was a typical child in a working-class neighborhood. But on July 28, 1999, when he was just 12 years old, everything changed. That evening, his mother was babysitting 6-year-old Tiffany Unick, the daughter of a family friend. The children were sent downstairs to play while the adults remained upstairs. What happened in that basement would shock the nation and spark a fierce debate about juvenile justice in America. Lionel was a child who watched professional wrestling on television, mimicking the moves he saw. But that night, something went terribly wrong. Tiffany Unick was 6 years old, small, innocent, and trusting. While the adults talked upstairs, Lionel was alone with her in the basement. What occurred next remains contested, but the physical evidence tells a horrifying story. Tiffany sustained a fractured skull, a lacerated liver, a broken rib, internal hemorrhaging, and over 30 cuts and bruises across her body. A medical examiner later testified that her injuries were consistent with falling from a 3-story building or being struck by a car. The defense would claim it was an accident, that Lionel was imitating wrestling moves he'd seen on television, and things went too far. But prosecutors argued the sheer brutality of the injuries indicated something far more sinister: a deliberate, sustained, and indescribably cruel beating. Tiffany's tiny body told the story of prolonged violence, not a single accidental move. When Lionel's mother came downstairs, she found Tiffany unresponsive. Tiffany was rushed to the hospital but died from her injuries. Lionel told authorities they were playing, that he was practicing wrestling moves. But the evidence painted a different picture, one of a child who inflicted catastrophic violence on another child. Police immediately launched an investigation. The severity of Tiffany's injuries raised questions about Lionel's account. On August 11, 1999, a grand jury indicted Lionel Tate and charged him with first-degree murder as an adult. He was 12 years old. Before trial, prosecutor Ken Padowitz twice offered a plea deal: plead guilty to second-degree murder and serve 3 years in a juvenile facility, 1 year of house arrest, 10 years of probation, and 1,000 hours of community service. The defense team, believing they could win an acquittal, refused. The trial began in January 2001. The defense argued accident. The prosecution argued deliberate murder. On March 9, 2001, the jury found Lionel Tate guilty of first-degree murder. Under Florida law, the sentence was mandatory: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Judge Joel T. Lazarus had no choice. At 14 years old, Lionel Tate became the youngest person in modern American history to receive a life sentence without parole. The sentence sparked international outrage. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, condemned it. Even prosecutor Ken Padowitz, who had secured the conviction, publicly suggested clemency. In December 2003, an appeals court overturned the conviction, ruling that the trial court failed to evaluate Lionel's mental competency before trial. In January 2004, Lionel accepted a new plea deal: guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for time served, 3 years, 1 year of house arrest, and 10 years of probation. He was released, but in September 2004, he violated probation. Then in May 2005, at 18, he was arrested for armed robbery of a pizza deliveryman. In 2006, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. As of 2025, he remains incarcerated at South Bay Correctional Facility. He will be eligible for release in January 2031, when he is 44 years old. He was 12 when he killed a 6-year-old girl. The defense called it an accident. The evidence called it murder. At 14, he was sentenced to die in prison. The world called it injustice. He was released, given a second chance, and within months he was back behind bars, this time for armed robbery. Tiffany Eunick never got a second chance. She died at 6, her small body broken beyond recognition. Lionel Tate will spend most of his life in prison, but the question remains, was justice served, or did the system fail everyone involved? Some children are victims, some are monsters, and some, like Lionel Tate, are both. We're halfway through some of the most disturbing cases in history. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the rest of this list. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Number 6 is Jordan Brown. Jordan Brown was born on August 12, 1997, in New Beaver, Pennsylvania. His father, Chris Brown, raised him alone after gaining full custody. They were inseparable. Jordan played football, baseball, and loved hunting with his dad. In May 2008, Chris reconnected with Kenzie Houck, a childhood friend. They began dating, blended their families, and got engaged. Kenzie had 2 daughters, Janessa, 7, and Adeline, 4. Jordan called Kenzie Mom and was thrilled about his soon-to-be baby brother. The family seemed perfect, but on February 20th, 2009, everything shattered. Kenzie, 8 months pregnant, was found shot in the back of the head in her bed. Jordan was 11 years old, and authorities believed he was the killer. That morning, Chris left for work around 7 a.m. Kenzie wasn't feeling well, but Chris had to go. Jordan and Janessa got ready for school. At 8:15 a.m., they raced down the driveway to catch the bus. Around 9 a.m., tree trimmers arrived and saw 4-year-old Adeline sobbing in the doorway. She told them something was wrong. They called 911. Kenzie was found dead in bed, shot in the back of the head. Her unborn son died with her. Police initially thought she hemorrhaged. The crime scene wasn't secured. Everything was contaminated. Then the coroner found the gunshot wound. Outside, police found 3 20-gauge shell casings. Jordan owned a 20-gauge shotgun, a Christmas gift 2 months earlier. Police interviewed Jordan and Janessa at school without recording. Janessa initially said nothing seemed unusual. Jordan said he saw a black truck near the driveway. But in Janessa's 4th interview, after staying with Kenzie's family, her story changed. She now claimed she heard a loud thud upstairs and Jordan was moving guns. Police theorized Jordan shot Kenzie while Janessa waited downstairs, then raced to the bus. All in 120 seconds. They found a blanket with gunshot residue. Jordan's coat and jeans each had 1 particle of residue, but he'd hunted days earlier. No fingerprints on his gun. His hands were never tested. No confirmed murder weapon. No clear motive. Chris was questioned and cleared. Police also investigated Adam Harvey, Kenzie's abusive ex-boyfriend who drove a black truck. He'd threatened Kenzie repeatedly and confronted her family at a restaurant just 12 hours before her death. Police cleared him because snow remained on his truck and he passed a polygraph. At 3:30 a.m. on February 21st to 18th hours after the murder, police arrested Jordan. He was 11 years old, charged as an adult with 2 counts of first-degree murder, facing life without parole. The evidence: Janessa's changed story, 1 particle of gunshot residue on his clothing, and a gun that smelled recently fired. No blood, no DNA, no witnesses, no motive. Jordan maintained his innocence. His father drove 230 miles daily to visit him, believing completely in his son's innocence. After years of legal battles, Jordan's case moved to juvenile court in 2011. In April 2012, a judge found him delinquent, guilty in juvenile court, sentencing him until age 21. He spent over 7 years in custody, maintaining a 3.9 GPA and graduating high school. On June 13, 2016, he was released on probation. On July 18, 2018, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned his conviction unanimously, 5-0, citing insufficient evidence. Jordan was fully exonerated. In 2020, he sued the state troopers for fabricated evidence. In December 2024, a jury ruled in favor of the troopers. As of 2025, Jordan is free, studying computer science. Kenzie's killer has never been found. He was 11 when they arrested him at 3:30 a.m. They said he committed the perfect murder in 120 seconds and went to school like nothing happened. One particle of gunshot residue. A changed story from a traumatized child. No blood, no proof. Jordan lost 7 years behind bars. Kenzie lost her life. And the truth remains buried somewhere between innocence and reasonable doubt. Some cases end with justice. This one ends with questions. Number 7 is Eric M. Smith. Eric M. Smith was born on January 22, 1980, in New York. He grew up in Savona, a small town where everyone knew everyone. But Eric's childhood was far from idyllic. He was relentlessly bullied, tormented for his bright red hair, freckles, thick glasses, and protruding ears. Classmates called him names. They mocked him daily. He had speech problems, was held back in school, and diagnosed with ADHD and depression. At home, Eric threw violent temper tantrums as a toddler, banging his head on the floor. He told his stepfather he felt like he wanted to hurt somebody. A defense psychiatrist later diagnosed him with intermittent explosive disorder, uncontrollable rage. But experts found no brain abnormalities or hormone imbalances to explain his violence. Eric was a loner, isolated, and angry. By age 11, he had begun hurting animals. The rage was building, and on August 2, 1993, it exploded. That morning, Eric Smith, 13, was riding his bike to a summer camp at a local park. 4-year-old Derek Roby was walking alone to that same camp. Derek's mother, Doreen, had let him walk the short block by himself for the first time. She kissed him goodbye. "I love you, Mom," he said. Eric saw Derek and lured him into a nearby wooded area. There, he strangled the little boy until he passed out. Then he picked up a large rock and dropped it on Derek's head. He struck him again and again. He sodomized Derek with a small stick. He took Kool-Aid from Derek's lunchbox and poured it into the open wounds. He smashed a banana near the body. Then he arranged Derek's sneakers, left shoe near the right hand, right shoe near the left hand, posing the body. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head with contributing asphyxia. Around 11 a.m., Doreen went to pick up Derek. He had never arrived. After 4 hours of searching, his body was found in the woods, just yards from the park and a few hundred yards from his own front door. The brutality shocked even seasoned investigators. Eric had enjoyed it. Police initially believed the killer was an adult from out of town. For days later, Eric Smith walked into the police command center, offering to help solve the crime. Investigators interviewed him. Eric denied seeing Derek, then changed his story. He described Derek's white t-shirt and lunch bag with eerie accuracy. Police asked him to reenact his movements. On video, Eric appeared calm, even happy. But investigators realized he couldn't have seen what he described from where he claimed to be. On August 8, 1993, Eric's family begged him to tell the truth. He broke down. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. I killed that little boy." Police arrested him. Eric Smith was tried as an adult, the youngest murder defendant in New York State history. On August 16, 1994, a jury found him guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 9 years to life in prison. He was 14 years old. Eric Smith spent 28 years behind bars. He was denied parole 10 times between 2002 and 2020. Each hearing forced Derek's parents to relive their nightmare. In October 2021, at his 11th parole hearing, Smith was granted release. He had expressed remorse, completed rehabilitation programs, and posed a low risk. On February 1, 2022, he was released. He moved to Queens, New York, over 200 miles from Savona. He remains on parole for life. As of 2025, Eric Smith is free. He is reportedly engaged and working to rebuild his life. He was 13 when he strangled a 4-year-old, bashed his skull with rocks, and posed his body like a trophy. Eric Smith told investigators he enjoyed it, that hurting someone else made him feel powerful after years of being bullied. 28 years later, parole boards believed he had changed. Derek Roby never got a second chance. His parents spent decades begging to keep his killer behind bars. Now Eric walks free, and the question remains: can a child who commits such evil truly be rehabilitated? Or are some acts too monstrous to forgive? Make sure you've liked this video if you're still watching. Your support means everything and helps us keep bringing you cases like these. Don't forget to like and share this with someone who loves true crime. Number 8 is Mary Flora Bell. Mary Flora Bell was born on May 26, 1957, in the rough, working-class neighborhood of Scotswood in Newcastle, England, an environment where violence was as common as rain. Her childhood, however, was not just difficult. It was catastrophic. Mary grew up in a home where safety did not exist. Her mother, a troubled sex worker, was known for unpredictable rages, frequent disappearances, and violent behavior. Mary's father figure changed constantly, each man leaving behind his own stain of chaos. From the moment Mary could walk, she was surrounded by danger. Family violence, neglect, and emotional abandonment carved deep scars into her young mind. Neighbors recalled seeing Mary wandering the streets alone for hours, her face blank, her behavior disturbingly detached. Teachers later described her as a child who demanded attention through extreme, unpredictable actions, an early indicator of emotional instability. This broken, toxic upbringing would not excuse what she eventually became, but it explains how a child learned to mimic brutality long before she understood the concept of empathy. In 1968, when Mary Bell was only 11, Scotswood became a hunting ground, and its victims were even younger than the predator. On May 25th, 4-year-old Martin Brown was found lifeless inside an abandoned house. No signs of struggle, no clear cause of death, just the chilling mystery of a child who simply stopped breathing. But the truth was far darker. Mary had strangled him, experimenting with power she believed she was entitled to. As investigators scrambled for answers, Mary and her friend Norma Bell, unrelated despite the shared surname, broke into a nursery school, vandalizing it and leaving behind cryptic notes bragging about the murder. Notes dismissed as a childish prank. Then, on July 31st, Mary struck again. This time, her target was 3-year-old Brian Howe. She lured him to a secluded wasteland and strangled him with her bare hands. Afterward, she mutilated his body with chilling detachment, displaying a cold, clinical curiosity that horrified even seasoned detectives. Mary wasn't impulsive. She was escalating. Police initially struggled to believe that a child could commit such brutal acts. But Mary Bell made mistakes, calculated ones. She inserted herself into conversations about the murders, asked disturbing questions about autopsy findings, and even taunted the victim's family with chilling remarks. When Brian Howe's body was found, Mary showed knowledge only the killer would know. Witnesses began reporting Mary's strange behavior. Children told police they saw her playing roughly, almost violently, with younger kids. Meanwhile, forensic examination of Brian's injuries showed small fingerprints too small to belong to an adult. During questioning, Mary tried to manipulate officers with confidence far beyond her age, but cracks in her stories exposed her. On August 4, 1968, Mary and Norma were arrested. Norma broke down quickly. Mary, however, remained disturbingly calm, almost proud. Mary Bell's trial became a national obsession. Psychiatrists described her as intelligent, manipulative, and showing classic signs of psychopathy, yet trapped in the body of a child. The courtroom was stunned by her lack of remorse and the chilling precision in her actions. In December 1968, Mary was found guilty of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility and sentenced to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure, an open-ended sentence. She spent years moving through secure facilities and specialized units designed for dangerous offenders. Mary was eventually released at age 23 and granted a new identity, protected by lifelong anonymity. The little girl who killed 2 toddlers vanished from public view, but the horror she created never faded. Mary Bell's story forces us to confront a terrifying question. Can evil be born, or is it created? She was a child shaped by violence, but she also chose violence in return. Society had never imagined a killer so young, so calculating, and so disturbingly self-aware. Decades later, her crimes remain a chilling reminder that darkness doesn't always hide in adults. Sometimes, it begins in childhood, quietly growing behind innocent eyes, until it finally reveals what it has become. Predator, in the form of a child. Number 9 is Brenda Ann Spencer. Before America knew her name, Brenda Ann Spencer was a quiet, red-haired teenager living on Lake Atlan Avenue in San Diego. But behind the thin walls of her small home, a very different reality shaped her early life. At 16, she was already carrying the weight of years marked by poverty, instability, and emotional neglect. After her parents divorced, Brenda lived with her father in a house strewn with empty bottles and little trace of structure or warmth. Both slept on a single mattress on the living room floor, a symbol of how small her world had become. Teachers described her as distant, often drifting through school in a fog. She spoke openly about harming police officers, about doing something big to be noticed. A psychiatric evaluation in 1978 warned she was depressed, suicidal, and needed hospitalization. Instead, she received a Christmas gift that would alter American history: a Ruger 10-22 rifle with 500 rounds of ammunition. A decision that turned neglect into disaster. Monday, January 29, 1979. A quiet winter morning at Grover Cleveland Elementary School. Children gathered outside, waiting for the gates to open. And across the street, behind a single window, Brenda Spencer raised the rifle she had been given weeks earlier. At 8:30 a.m., she pulled the trigger. Her first shot struck 9-year-old Cam Miller. Chosen, she later said, simply because he wore her favorite color, blue. Chaos ripped through the schoolyard. Children dove behind bushes, teachers shielded students with their bodies, and panic replaced the stillness of a typical Monday morning. Principal Burton Ragg ran toward the gunfire, trying to pull a child to safety. Brenda shot him dead. Moments later, custodian Mike Sucher rushed forward to help another student. She killed him instantly. 8 children collapsed wounded on the pavement. A police officer responding to the first call for help was shot in the neck as he arrived. For 6 minutes, Brenda fired 36 rounds. Calm, methodical, detached. When the shooting stopped, she barricaded herself in her home as law enforcement surrounded the property. During the standoff, a reporter reached her by phone and asked why she had done it. Her answer became one of the most chilling in the history of American crime. "I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day." She told negotiators the children were easy targets and threatened to come out shooting. Only with the promise of a Burger King meal did she finally surrender. From the beginning, investigators found overwhelming evidence of intent. Brenda had spoken often about violence, fantasized about shooting police officers, and had been arrested months earlier for vandalizing the same school she targeted. The psychiatric warnings, the escalating hostility, the obsession with notoriety. Everything pointed toward a deliberate, premeditated act. Charged as an adult, Brenda Spencer stood before the court with no visible emotion. She pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and multiple counts of assault with a deadly weapon. Prosecutors emphasized her statements during the standoff, describing them as cold, purposeful, and horrifyingly indifferent. On April 4, 1980, the day after her 18th birthday, Brenda Spencer was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. A sentence that reflected not only the lives lost, but the lasting national shock that followed. Over the decades, Brenda Spencer became eligible for parole again and again: 1993, 2001, 2005, 2009, 2022, and most recently in February 2025. Each time, survivors, prosecutors, and families opposed her release. Some denials cited self-harm incidents. Others questioned her shifting accounts of abuse. All pointed to the same conclusion: she remained a danger. As of 2025, Brenda Spencer is 63 years old, still incarcerated at the California Institution for Women. Her next parole hearing is scheduled for 2028. Her crime remains one of the earliest and most defining school shootings in modern American history. Brenda Spencer's case forces a painful question onto the American conscience. How does a lonely teenager transform into the architect of a national tragedy? Her story is a collision of neglect, untreated trauma, and the devastating power of opportunity meeting despair. And more than 40 years later, the echo of that Monday morning still lingers. A reminder that some wounds never truly heal, and some answers never truly arrive. Number 10 is Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips. Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips was born on March 17, 1984, in Allentown, Pennsylvania, into a home fractured by fear. His father, Steve, struggled with addiction and violence, enforcing strict rules and directing his anger toward the people closest to him. Joshua's mother, Melissa, lived in constant apprehension, watching her son navigate a childhood of control and intimidation. In 1998, at age 14, Joshua had moved with his family to Jacksonville, Florida, separated from his half-brothers, and now lived in a neighborhood that seemed ordinary on the surface. Neighbors described him as quiet, friendly, a boy who played baseball and joked with classmates. His teachers saw no sign of menace. Yet beneath the ordinary exterior was a child shaped by fear, impulsivity, and a desperate desire to avoid his father's wrath. When the right and wrong circumstances converged, the facade of innocence would shatter entirely. On November 3, 1998, Joshua and his 8-year-old neighbor and friend, Maddie Clifton, went outside to play baseball in their Lakewood neighborhood. The sun had begun its slow descent, and Maddie's laughter echoed down quiet streets. In a moment that would forever haunt Jacksonville, a ball struck Maddie in the eye. She screamed, crying. Panic consumed Joshua. Afraid of punishment from his abusive father, he made a decision that no child should ever face. He dragged Maddie into his home, trying to silence her cries. According to his own account, he struck her with a baseball bat. Then, when she remained alive and moaning under his waterbed, he used a knife to fatally wound her. He hid her body beneath the bed, and for 7 days, Joshua went through the motions of normal life, even helping search parties look for her. A week of denial, where reality and fantasy blurred, until his mother discovered the body on November 10th. The horror of that act shocked the community. A life stolen by a boy not yet 14. Maddie's small frame, hidden beneath her friend's bed, became a chilling symbol of the fragility of innocence and the unimaginable capacity for destruction in the wrong circumstances. Melissa Phillips stumbled upon her daughter's friend's body, and the police were called immediately. Joshua was arrested later that day at school. He confessed within hours, explaining the accidental ball strike, the panic, and the subsequent acts that ended Maddie's life. Prosecutors questioned his story, noting inconsistencies in his account and suggesting potential sexual motives, though no evidence of assault was found. The trial, moved to Polk County due to publicity, began on July 6, 1999. Remarkably, the defense called no witnesses. Joshua did not testify. Jurors deliberated for just over 2 hours before convicting him of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, as Florida law barred execution for those under 16. Even those involved in the prosecution later expressed regret, reflecting on the extreme weight of sentencing a 14-year-old to a lifetime behind bars. Joshua Phillips remained in prison, completing his education, working as a paralegal, and participating in religious and therapeutic programs. In 2017, following U.S. Supreme Court rulings on juvenile sentencing, he was resentenced to life with eligibility for review after 25 years. As of 2025, Joshua, now 41, is seeking a new sentencing review. The Clifton family has opposed his release, maintaining that the weight of the crime and Maddie's loss cannot be undone. His journey through the legal system continues, a haunting reminder of the tension between juvenile culpability and lifelong punishment. A boy who played ball with his neighbor became the source of unimaginable grief. Joshua Phillips' story forces a question that lingers long after the trial. Can a child's fear and impulsivity excuse the life they take, or are some acts irreversibly beyond redemption? Some scars are permanent, no matter the years behind bars. 10 teenage killers, 10 lives destroyed. Some walked free, others will die behind bars. These cases force us to ask the hardest questions. Are children capable of true evil? Can rehabilitation ever erase such horror? Or are some crimes so monstrous that age doesn't matter? If this video left you stunned, shocked, or speechless, hit that like button right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We dive deep into the darkest true crime cases that most channels won't touch. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Drop a comment below and let me know, which case shocked you the most? And should juvenile killers ever be given a second chance? Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Because evil doesn't always look like what you'd expect. Sometimes it looks like a child. See you in the next one.